Kumbaya, my lord. This isn't just kumbaya talk. Purpose drives impact. Looking to empower up your day? Tune in to Evolve Together with Empower People on ESPN Richmond, powered by MikeKingBiz. Join me, host and Empower People founder Tiffany Joy Greene, MBA, as I bring dynamic leaders, change makers, and entrepreneurs to share their journeys, challenges, and successes while driving their purpose to drive positive impact and empower people. Empower People is an organization that provides education, connection, and support to mission and purpose-driven leaders to drive positive impact and empower people. Catch us every Tuesday at 5 a.m. on ESPN Richmond and join Empower People today. What are you waiting for? We even have a free membership. That's right, free. Visit www.empowerpeople.org. That is MPWRPeople.org. You can also visit us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. Evolve Together. So welcome to Evolve Together with Empower People, the show that brings you inspiring stories, expert insights, and transformative advice on ESPN Richmond, powered by MikeKingBiz. I'm your host, Tiffany Joy Greene, founder of Empower People. Each week we dive into topics that are rooted in how purpose drives business and positive impact. Join us as we connect with dynamic guests, explore innovative ideas, and empower you to evolve and thrive in every aspect of your life. Stay tuned because together we can achieve greatness. Let's evolve together. To learn more about Empower People, you can visit www.empowerpeople.org. That's MPWRPeople.org. Or you can find us on YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn. #Empower People. Now, let's dive into today's show with our very special guest, Chris Saxman. Chris Saxman is the Executive Director of Virginia Free, a nonpartisan nonprofit established in 1988 that informs the business community in order to advance free enterprise and responsible pro-business government. Delegate Saxman served in the Virginia House of Delegates from 2002 to 2010. During this time in the Virginia House, he served on Commerce and Labor, General Laws, Transportation, Counties, Cities, and Towns, and Agriculture, just a few things, Chesapeake and Natural Resources Committees, and also chaired 2 subcommittees. In 2007, U.S. Senator John McCain asked Saxman to co-chair his Virginia campaign for president, along with U.S. Senator John Warner. In 2010, Saxman co-chaired the K-12 transition team for Governor-elect Bob McDonnell. Saxman served as the general manager of his family's bottled water business based in Stanton, Virginia, from 1995 until 2010. As part of his commitment to the industry, Saxman became the chairman of the board of directors for the International Bottled Water Association in 2007. Saxman was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, but primarily grew up in Stanton. He graduated from Washington and Lee University with a BA in European History in 1987. Saxman and his wife, Michelle, relocated the family to Richmond area in 2013. They have 4 grown children. And in true Empower People fashion, I love to share a fun fact about our guest. And Chris doesn't even know what this fun fact is.
Oh, dear God. Who have you been talking to? I get like the 10-second rebuttal. Go ahead.
He is the member. This may be outdated, so you have to let us know. He is the member of the Shenandoah Valley Kiwanis.
Oh, yeah.
I felt was kind of interesting because Chris, you probably don't know this about me, but I was actually a Key Club member in high school and a Kiwanis member up in northern New York. So I thought that was kind of cool fact.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not a member of the Kiwanis group anymore, but great people doing really good work back in Stanton.
Yeah, I love Kiwanis. So welcome to the show.
Great to be here.
How did it feel to hear that whole laundry list of accomplishments?
It's always weird when people say, "Hey, send me your bio," and I'm like, that's just not that much. And then you read it kind of like, well, you've done some things, you've been some places, people, And my kids are asking me, used to ask me quite a bit, "Dad, what do you do?" I was like, I'm just me. They're like, no, seriously, what do you do? And then I had to think about it for a while because I don't want to be seen as a title or something I've done in the past. It's sort of like, what do I do? And what I do is I connect people and I teach people. That's something those are the 2 things that I really do and I think do well with true gifts of that God-given gifts that I think I just do well in and has produced a lot of results over the years. Now that I'm consciously aware of what I do, so and that's at the ripe old age of 58, I kind of figured that out. It was kind of nice.
It's funny because my kids say that, you know what I do for a living? This is how they'll define it. I talk. That's what I do. I talk for a living. And I'm like, well, that's not really wrong. Talking is a pretty
Right.
big component. But I always say to them, I'm like, I teach.
Yeah. Yeah. Important things that, I just, now that I'm more consciously aware of what I actually do for the people who hire me or retain me, or for the organizations that pay me, I kind of go, okay, but what do I do while I'm there?
100%.
Yeah.
So,
It's just better to know that.
so you were prepared. All the listeners just know I'm trying to be a nice host. I try to give the guests an inkling of what we're going to talk about. It's also good for me because I could talk about a lot of things, but we're going to talk about purpose-driven leadership. And so my first question for you is, what was the motivation? What was the inspiration for creating Free Virginia?
Oh, Virginia Free was created in 1988, which would have been my first year out of college. I wasn't around for its creation.
Okay.
But it was created because, and this is the foundational documents, much like our national foundational documents, do lay the cornerstones on which you then behave, which you adhere to. And it's really important to understand that when you're trying to do, you can do a lot of things in the world of politics and business, but if you understand why you're there in the first place, the reason you exist, your purpose for being, your raison d'etre, as they would say, the purpose was to more fully engage the business community in politics. And you can go any number of different directions with that. But I think when you understand what the initial purpose was and what you're really trying to do is just help the business community understand what's going on in politics, it really lays into my two things that I do. I connect people, which is connecting business and political leaders, and business leaders to political leaders, and vice versa, back and forth, and then teach them both. And coming from the business world and having been in the legislature, I can teach both communities about each other and largely about themselves as well in that context, in that relationship. So we're ever focused on creating more constructive ways to engage the political community with the business community and vice versa. And like last week, I moderated a congressional debate between Congresswoman Jen Kiggins and the Democratic challenger, Missy Cotter Smazel, in Virginia Beach. Hampton Roads Chamber of Commerce put that on, able to connect people, talk to business leaders, and also the political community at the same time. The night before that, I was in Manassas talking to a group of CEOs who were lamenting the state of our political life these days and wanting to know what they could do. So, those are the different things that we did, that I have done. And then we also have some, pretty well-regarded events that bring people from all walks of life into politics and business together.
So since this show, well, first of all, I gotta say, you said purpose, which that was gonna make my heart sing too. Being also, because I shared for the listenership, I shared with Chris that yesterday was Canadian Thanksgiving. This show airs next week, so know that Canadian Thanksgiving is October 14th. And so he said raison d'etre, French. I mean, come on, Chris, you're totally talking to me.
Are you Quebecois?
I actually am mostly Scottish, but I'm actually Scottish and French. So
Okay.
if I actually just come out and say I'm French Canadian, my mom will roll over in her grave because she was the English Scottish Canadian, and the English and the French, as you know.
Well, I mean, French Canadian's a unique
It is.
element within the ethnography of North America. I mean, it's still a very strong, proud heritage.
It is.
And I used to live, before we moved to Stanton, when I was a young child, in 1975, 68 to 75, we lived in Detroit. And Detroit, and if you want to call it that. But we were very close, to Canada. And you felt more of the Canadian culture as a result. Listen to Canadian radio stations. I remember CKLW out of Ontario was one of my favorites at the time because they played music more Motown, weird, than some of the Detroit stations. But you grew up, this was when hockey was the original six. So we played the Canadians a lot, and you got to know, well, what's a Canadian? What's a Canuck? You started going down this road of what the French Canadians were all about. It's a unique and very interesting political world, if nothing else.
It is. And when you're going to say it in that term, you really should say Canadien.
It's not going to happen. And I appreciate your enthusiasm for it. A dear friend of mine from college is from, I think he's from Quebec, and he was I think, a Juilliard trained pianist. And when he went to Washington Lee, we were like, this guy can, Rob Viano can, he's an amazing pianist. Now he's works in construction up in Seattle, and he's still, is a big Canadian fan. And so we don't typically talk about that so much, but it's a good rivalry. Good rivalry.
It is. And just fun fact, I do still have a tendency, like we moved down to Richmond in 2012. But there are certain things that I mispronounce. One of them, you'll appreciate this. My husband and I were on, I think 95 or something, and we saw a sign. Well, I'll leave it there and then fast forward, and I'm talking to everybody like, where is this Lake Gaston? I'd really like to, it sounds really nice. Where's Lake Gaston? Everyone's like, what are you talking about? I said, well, it's like right across the border, I guess, in North Carolina, Lake Gaston. They're like, it's Lake Gaston.
Right.
Oh, and the other name, I've been told I probably shouldn't move it because I say a little funky, is Goochland.
Oh yeah, you need a pronunciation guide. Don't ever go to Buena Vista then, which we call Buena Vista.
Oh,
Oh yeah, Buena Vista, BV. There's a lot of them out there. That's one of the great things about Virginia. You learn the different Gloucesters and Precosins of the world. There's just you look at these words, you go like Stanton. I was thrilled you pronounced Stanton correctly.
I had to practice.
That's a big one.
I practiced because I've said it wrong till somebody finally had the heart, and I was very appreciative that they correct me because I was saying Staunton for the longest time.
Yeah, it's one of the it's fading away more and more, but it's always a unique way to go. Where are you from? That's like,
and you know what? No matter where you are in this world, it's like where I'm from. There was another town that is we call it Norfolk.
No, woo!
And it's spelled the same way.
No, y'all done screwed that one up.
I know, right? But I believe that's the French influence.
Oh yeah, Norfolk.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's more hard English though. I don't know where that pronunciation comes from. Anyway, it's
fun though. It's fun when you get into it.
Fun. It is.
Anyway, I live in Chesterfield, so I get to say I live on a couch.
Funny.
So let me ask you my next question, which is, how do you define purpose-driven leadership?
Purpose is a difficult construct, I think, for a lot of folks because we get so busy doing our stuff that takes care of our daily lives. And you really do. It's a great question to ask, and I was kind of intrigued when I saw the list of questions coming across because I don't get asked these questions. I normally get, what's the polling say in this state, and
yeah.
Translate different policy proposals and stuff. Defining your purpose is it's like when I said in the outset, my kids asked me, what do I do? And I had to reconstruct it and go, well, I connect and teach, but why do you do what you do? Why do you connect? What's your purpose in connecting? Why has it become a gift? And I have, your purpose comes from a lot of your experiences collectively in your life. Like, why do I connect so well? Why do I bring people together innately? Because, I saw in my, life growing up, people torn apart very painfully. A family dynamic when I was in middle school in particular, there was a family break with an extended family in a business. And it really was painful to watch because that was a very important part of my life growing up at the time. So when I saw people disconnect and I saw the pain, I don't know if this is why I do what I do, but I'm always excited to bring people together and see what can happen when people connect, when they start seeing each other face to face and they start exchanging ideas and the opportunities that come about. And it's a wonderful experience if you get a chance to see it. It's one of the reasons I like about Virginia Free Events. They go, wow, how do you put together such amazing events? I'm like, well, there's a secret sauce. I'm not going to give it out. But I give out a lot of recipes for my cooking, but that one I kind of keep it to my chest because it's success for the organization. But, when you put 70 legislators in a room and have lunch with business leaders, and of that 70, 35 are Democrats and 35 are Republicans, and no one really cares at that moment in time, they can start creating wonderful things together. And I witnessed that first and foremost when I was in legislature, and I was elected 2 months after 9/11, which is a very different reality. So the market at the time, the political market at the time said, y'all need to get along and get stuff done. because we're not doing partisanship right now. Y'all need to get together and figure this stuff out. And we did. And it felt great to be able to reach across the aisle, work with Democrats, work with Republicans all across the state, and get good things done. And I saw the benefits of that reality. And of course, I would hate to have to relive another 9/11 to get the American psyche wrapped around the need to do that. And one of my purposes is to do that without that, get that done without having a tragedy of that scale happen to our country. So that's the purpose for me, has always been getting people together. But that's, I think, discovering in yourself what your purpose is and applying it in your vocations, or have your vocation apply into your, because my vocation, it seems to be, is connecting people and teaching, and then apply it to in a professional setting. And that's the understanding you get from yourself and working with others, saying, okay, what do I do? What do you want me to do here? Sometimes it doesn't work out. It's like, this is just not a good fit. That's just great. It's just not meant to be. It's gonna be a waste of time. Go do something else. So defining yourself, what's your purpose, and then applying it. And then purpose-driven leadership is that reality, is that, everyone has their role to play, if you will. And it's an important journey. And I hope your listeners will take up the question to themselves as they go throughout the day, going, what is my purpose and how do I apply it in a leadership? Because I think once you have a purpose established, you'll naturally lead, because you're going in that direction. Whether someone chooses to follow you or not is a different story, but you're going in a direction, therefore you are leading.
I love that you say that, because I felt like you also kind of teed me up. So in Empower People, one of the things we teach is purpose-driven living and purpose-driven work. And the foundation is, if you to be a leader, you have to have purpose, which means you have to be able to successfully lead yourself through purpose to be able to successfully lead others. That's
Right.
the first foundational step.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, I'm sure you would agree that step is often skipped. And then people go, well, why are they struggling in leading? Because it's the cores themselves first, right?
Right. Right.
There's a question, and this is an unplanned question, but you made me think of it. When September 11th, we always talk about the unity in so many ways, not just forget the politics, but just this unity of community, like we all just band together, right? I'll put this out there. My friends have heard me say this, people close to me. I thought COVID was going to do that to us, but it didn't do that at all.
No.
What do you think we can do as a community to to unify, like without having a trauma, without having like what can we do? What
Well,
have you experienced in your events that brings that unity that we can do in our daily lives?
well, that's a lot to unpack. Let's go right to the heart of COVID.
Okay.
One of the problems that we experienced in COVID is that it was a political year. It was a re-election of the president who was deeply unpopular with one political party and very popular with another political party. And I thought the way the president initially handled the COVID outbreak was bad, was not good. I thought, and I said this, wrote this, so this is not news for me to say these things. There's always a moment when leaders have to rise above the moment and go, look, folks, this is different. And we're all going to get on the same page and move together. And part of that is listening. And if you want to say there's two sides to COVID, unfortunately there were. No one listens to each other. No one took and said, hey, I hadn't really thought about that. It was about political control for both parties. There was no give and take from both sides. It became partisan, which is horrific. And what it did to our country emotionally and psychologically, culturally, was scarring. And it's another reason why we're so deeply divided as a nation, as a people. And it's sad to watch what could have been a very unifying moment, a very unifying element in our nation's history. It became more divisive. So and I think that's from not knowing your true purpose. And when national leaders lose their sense of national purpose and it becomes partisan gains, they're unworthy of the task.
I like that. I think that really, I really like that answer. And I know I struggled personally. For me, I remember you said, and when we went through when the COVID pandemic hit, I literally said, it was really shocking to me, and I like what you said because it helped me make sense of it a little bit too. I said the COVID's going to go down in our history books as the great unifier. Boy, was I wrong.
No, it was gasoline on the fire.
Yeah, it was. At
And
the
it's
time,
unfortunate.
I was more hopeful, but I think your answer to that helped me put clarity to that. So just thank you.
Well, no, I mean, hopefully it'll be a learning experience coming out of this, where people like, they judge people for wearing masks and we were judged for not wearing masks. I mean, that is the definition of psychotic.
It is.
Whether you choose to take a vaccine or not became, a political rallying point and a source of cultural shaming.
Mm-hmm.
My God. And today, I mean, if you look back at what's accepted as normal behavior, like we shouldn't judge people for doing X, Y, and Z, but you should judge them for other things. That it's a narrative that is a recipe for disaster if we're going to be open-minded. And I come from a liberal arts tradition. So I'm used to questioning and, having, the dialogue and having the conversation. At least I have it in my own head. Most of the time when I was in college and when I was teaching, you had people discuss issues and topics out loud so they could hear themselves think.
Yeah.
And we're not supposed to do that anymore. And we're just supposed to behave and, adapt to one side or the other. That is like the antithesis of liberal arts education in this country, which I value so deeply.
Critical thinking.
Well, not just critical thinking and be able to defend yourself, but hearing yourself think out
Yes.
loud, you go, how many times I said that? And I go, that didn't come out the way I wanted it to. I mean,
Right.
that's one of the reasons why I write and try to get things down succinctly is like, I need to see it on paper for myself. Whether someone else reads it and believes it and goes, oh, I agree with you. Okay, great. When I was a teacher, Tiffany, I only had one rule in my class. And that is for you to think. That was it. I told my students, I don't care what you think. I really don't. I care that you think. And from there, you'll be a much better person. And that was the goal. He's always got a purpose. My purpose as a teacher wasn't necessarily get my kids better grades. They, over the course of the year, they tended to have their grades go up, and I'd go back and show them, said, look how much you've improved over the year because your product has improved. I don't think they do that anymore, but but you're doing it because you're thinking and you're doing and you're feeling and understanding yourself and going, yeah, I'm getting this stuff. And that's what I enjoyed about teaching, was getting people to think out loud and go, I'm not sure I think that anymore, or challenge yourself. So that was my purpose in teaching. And I think I do the same thing here at Virginia Free, is get people to think. Sometimes I shock them. Sometimes I'll say things that are, like, what the hell is he talking about this time? But I want them to see things differently, and then throw some graphics and some information that they kind of go, you have to juggle people out of this cable news nausea fest. Just disastrous, intellectually disastrous, and get them to start just be intellectually honest with themselves and then hopefully with their fellow man.
I love everything you said there. How would what you just said as being a teacher and what you did with your students, I would imagine that could really be transformative for a small business and nonprofit if they led a small business and nonprofit through thinking, like have purpose, but the empowerment of thinking.
Well, nonprofits are tough. It's not an easy business.
No.
People think, because it's typically, people don't have to do business with you. It's not like you need to go out and buy X, Y, and Z for survival. I mean, nonprofits during COVID was a tough sell, right? That was a tough sell. A lot of them didn't make it, and we were skin of our teeth getting through it because people were like, you're not, this isn't top of the heap from a priority standpoint. So you have to stay on purpose and stay on task and make sure that people understand your purpose, and if it still applies and if it's still relevant. And a lot of nonprofits are in the business of going out of business because once they've accomplished their task, they should fold up tents and say, we did what we did. Our initial purpose is gone. We might start up another one. I don't know why that's going on behind me.
Zoom has new features, and we just learned one.
Oh, woohoo! Imagine my okay.
Like what you said, fireworks.
But whoo. So the difficulty, I think, in nonprofits is staying on purpose, the task, and being creative without losing the purpose,
Right.
without being dragged away in a different direction, going, no, that's not why we're here. That's, it's a great idea, but not for this group. And we need to say singular on purpose because our donors, our funders, our members, our sponsors, they are here for X, Y, and Z. And that's part of the dynamic of nonprofits, which I find to be very challenging and very interesting as well.
Well, we're getting close to the time, and I don't want to mess up all the time slots for the radio station, but we have to honor that. But I'm wondering if I could invite you back, and I'd like to have a more conversation on purpose-driven leadership, but also talk a little bit about, because you've worked in the for-profit sector with your family's water bottling company. Am I saying that right?
Bottled water, yeah.
Yeah,
the 5-gallon, the big 5-gallon, the reusable, big recycle, reuse.
Yeah.
We were better. We were better.
Yay, good purpose. And then the for-profit space.
What's that?
And the for-profit space, like a compare and contrast, because for as much I know one thing, what you're saying is right about the nonprofit space, but one thing I try to teach nonprofits is there's also a lot of similarity. There's less differences between a nonprofit and a for-profit than there is differences. You're still a business at the end of the day.
You're still bringing in revenue. You still have expenses. The profit typically goes to payroll or expanding programs or something like that, or putting in a foundation and doing different things with it. But when you take out the profit motive, it's a very different construct, and it's exhilarating at times. It's frustrating at times. It's just different. It's just different. Yeah.
So I'm gonna be prepared to get a text. And funny story, everybody listening, I was tweeting Chris Saxman yesterday thinking he was Chris Mayfield. So he must have been thinking, what is this lady doing? She's
it wasn't. I was driving around. I was like, whatever. I was driving and not listening to the voicemail. I was like, all right, we'll figure it out. I give a lot of grace to things that naturally stay in motion or in motion tend to stay in motion. It's like, I will figure it out. It'll happen.
That's it. And I wish him a happy Canadian Thanksgiving. So, and a picture of the sorry mug, hopefully you got a hoot out of that when you saw my Canadian mug with the sorry on there.
I did that. Sorry. Sorry. Oh yeah. Hey.
Hey, I like that. So I'm going to wrap up now because I know I could keep talking to you, and I will reach out to set up another interview. If you could just be so patient as I do our outro for the show. Thank you for tuning in to Evolve Together with Empower People here on ESPN Richmond, powered by MikeKingBiz. I'm your host, Tiffany Joy Greene, MBA, and it's been a pleasure sharing this time with you. We hope today's episode inspired you, provided valuable insights, and empowered you to take the next step in your purpose-driven journey. Don't forget to connect with Empower People on social media, share your thoughts, and join the Empower People community, where education, connection, and support is offered to mission and purpose-driven leaders to drive positive impact and empower people. Until next time, keep evolving, stay empowered, and remember that together we can achieve greatness. Have a fantastic day, and we'll see you on the next episode of Evolve Together with Empower People. Let's evolve together.